if they're going to do mobile consulates, they don't have extra staff where they can just deploy and then still keep the embassy going. And so they have to shut down the embassy and then go to these different states. So that's their goal this year. And they're working on the logistics of that.
They should ask us of how they can do that. I can give them a quick suggestion.
Oh, right.
A very, very quick suggestion. Some of those people need to roll up their sleeves and work in the consulate while these other guys on the field.
When you say some of those people, who are some of those people?
There's other people who are there who are staff.
So I'll tell you something.
As guys, we know. But
you guys are here closer that I...
No, we've seen their operations.
Not only
That's
closer,
why we say that.
but we have inside information.
They can deploy those guys to do...
So the registrations were being controlled from Nairobi. People who are registering for... to come and apply for passports. Now, what Nairobi did not have information about or what they did not know, they did not have experience in doing this. So they registered many people and then they brought people from Nairobi, which costs more, who have no training in doing this, to do this. So what was happening with that Nairobi version is that people were staying up until 2 a.m. And they've not been served. The issue of consulate services. I know you've been having some conversations for Kenyans. You've been having some conversations with some government officials in Kenya. Tell us a bit about that, because that has been a thorn in the issue for many Kenyans here in the US in terms of maybe inefficiency or lack of clarity, distance, so many things.
Applications, registration.
Yeah, so talk to us about that on the conversations you've been having and maybe, what changes we might expect to see.
Yeah, that is an issue that is very live and well. Since coming to this country, that has been something that, we have been fighting for as Kenyan Americans or diasporans in general, from the right to vote, right? Because the Constitution, the 2010, right? Constitution basically, allowed all the Kenyans, no matter where they are in the world, to vote. And so I got involved, probably like 10 plus years ago in regards to, championing those issues around, the right to vote with Wakili Henry Ongeri in Minnesota and Mr. Choti and the folks here in Maryland as well, around that idea.
KCA.
Yes. Choti, Choti ni mtu wa Montgomery County.
Okay.
And he needs to actually, by the way, run. That's a side comment. And so when we talk about, the services that we need, that's on top of my list of things that I personally would like to see where Kenyan in diaspora are able to vote and participate civically. And then secondly, when we talk about consulate services, again, that is a issue that we have been, you guys have talked about this time. Like, I don't know how many shows you guys have held in regards to consulate services, and those conversations have been had all the way to the president. That's one of the things that I mentioned when I went to Kenya, is that, obviously I had just a couple of minutes with the president, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that he understood, and he referred me to.
So did you use your Kisii accent? Just asking for a friend.
I used my proper English accent because I wanted to make sure he understood, because he doesn't come from the Kisii.
English of the nose.
Of the nose.
Yeah, Maju.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maju. In all seriousness, so I've been having conversations with, CS and PS, foreign affairs and diaspora affairs.
That's Rosalind Njogu.
Madam Honorable Rosalind Njogu. She was actually here in 2023 when we had the state visit from the president here, and
that was 2024.
2024. You're right.
That was last year. That was right before the Gen Z revolution.
That was last. You're right. Absolutely.
That was the
right
peak.
Before.
Yeah,
You're
that
right.
was the peak of.
It was in May.
It feels like
Yes.
it's been 2 years.
That's
Wow.
when people who bought
There's
kitenges,
so much stuff that has happened
people who
since
bought
that
Since
kitenges,
that-
people who bought
yes.
kitenges and went to White House, they had to delete all the pictures.
Yes.
They had to
yes.
delete all the pictures.
Why?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the Gen Zs demanded it.
Oh,
the Gen Zs decided.
The Gen Zs do not
Yes.
play. So going back to the cancel it, that is a conversation that has been had for many years. And I am fortunate enough to be in a space where I can have honest conversations with our Ambassador Kirich here in DC. I've met with him a couple of times. He's come to Minnesota, obviously, and we've met about what would that look like if we cannot get consulates in different geographical areas where Kenyans are concentrated. We're talking about New Jersey, we're talking about Texas, we're talking about Minnesota, and all these other regions. Then what's the low-hanging fruit? Because putting a consulate somewhere, it requires a lot of resources, a lot of manpower. Right now in our DC office, I mean, they have a lot of work to do in terms of the need, right? And so the goal right now is to look at the low-hanging fruit is mobile consulates. And the last conversation I had was actually a couple of weeks ago with the ambassador. And the goal is to, they will work on an agenda, not an agenda, but a schedule. A schedule of where, because if they're going to do mobile consulates, they don't have extra staff where they can just deploy and then still keep the embassy going. And so they have to shut down the embassy and then go to these different states. So that's their goal this year. And they're working on the
They should
logistics of
ask
that.
us of how they can do that. I can give them a quick suggestion.
Oh, right.
A very, very quick suggestion. Some of those people need to roll up their sleeves and work in the consulate while these other guys on the field.
When you say some of those people, who are some of those people?
There's other people
So-
who are there who are staff.
So I'll tell you something.
As guys, we know, but
You guys are
stuff we
here
know.
closer that I...
no, we've
yeah.
we've
Not
seen
only
their
closer,
we've seen
Yeah.
their operations.
Not only
That's
closer,
why we say that.
but we have inside
yeah,
information.
they can deploy those guys to do because
so
a
I
lot
want
of what they
you-
do is administrative.
So I'd like you
Yeah.
to go tell PS Roslyn Jogu something, which I don't know whether she knows, because we talked about you don't know what you don't know. So there was two models that we've seen over the years. There was the model where occasionally they would announce that we are coming to a certain state, we're coming to Ohio, or we are coming to Minnesota, and people and staff from the embassy who have experience in doing this would go and do it. Now, model 2 that was introduced when the Kenya Kwanza government came in was you grab the process from here and you take it back to Nairobi. So the registrations were being controlled from Nairobi. People who are registering for to come and apply for passports. Now, what Nairobi did not have information about, or what they did not know, they did not have experience in doing this. So they registered many people, and then they brought people from Nairobi, which costs more, who have no training in doing this, to do this. So what was happening with that Nairobi version is that people were staying up until 2 a.m. And they've not been served. In one case, this was being done during the month of Ramadan, and people were calling me. I don't work for the embassy, but a lot of people have my number. They were calling me, Ali, vipi tumefunga, wewe umetuambia tuje tujiandikishe hapa to apply passport na nini, wanatuweka mpaka saa 8 usiku, hatujakula, hatujafanya nini. So now you need to tell the PS that the original process worked, where because it was really working well. Yeah. They just need to give funding to the team here to be able to do it. That thing of picking, like people from Nairobi, like best friends and other people who are working in the ministry to come and do it, it was very inefficient. And then the other problem is that those people who are coming from Nairobi, because, we've stayed in the US for long, also did not necessarily have the right temperament and skill to deal with people
Quick wits of being
the diaspora.
mobile and dealing with people in the
Yes.
diaspora. They
So
work the same way as when they're working
Yes.
in Kenya. Slow
Yeah.
motion.
Yes. So I think, like, that's something that you need to point out to her. They do not need to bring people from Nairobi. This thing was being done before, and it was being done very efficiently by staff that was working here. And they know their capacity. They know how many applications they can process. So they know when to stop. They know how many times they need to go. It is cheaper to have them go multiple times than get people from Nairobi coming. So I think that's a very important message that you need to get to her.
I agree 100%. I will definitely see what I can do to do that. And last thing, I know that when I was talking to the ambassador and PS Njogu, one of the things that we continue having a conversation around, and obviously this is on them, like I have nothing to do with that, is what about the idea of honorary consulates? I have done a lot of research into that. And that right there, there's a lot of benefits, right? It's it's basically a private entity, somebody who's going to come in, run a consulate, but it's honorary and it's governed by the embassy, but given permission by the Secretary of State. And these people is the one who have to get the building, has to get the staff, has to run all of that in support of. So they're saving the government money and they're providing services. So again, I know that we're running out of time. So that's another conversation piece that we can have.
Is it a random Kenyan?
It can be a Kenyan.
Or
it has to be a citizen.
American.
It has to be a citizen of another. Basically,
so are you
not
a citizen?
Kenyan. Basically, a Kenyan American can do, as long as you have a passport of a different country and not.
But are they financing it out of pocket?
They have to finance it out of pocket and run it out of pocket.
Okay.
It's a business. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Offer. Kuna mtu kwenye simu.
So to say, I told you.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
We have to, it's ill.
This
okay,
person.
let's give them 1 minute.
Okay.
Let's give them 1 minute.
38 seconds.
Yeah, let's give them 38 seconds.
All right. 2151. Hello.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from and why you're calling this late.
Welcome to the OneMicShow.
Oh, is that 2151?
Yes, 2151.
Yes. Tell us your name and where you're calling from and why you're calling this late.
Eric, so mine is a quick suggestion and request if a representative can advocate for us to get away to get involved in the voting in Kenya. You know, I know she has the ears of the government, but I know diaspora has not really had a serious chance to participate in the Kenyan elections. So I think it would be very helpful if we can get someone to push for that, someone who has the ear of the government. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Ali, can you answer that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Kenya has actually participated in Kenyans in diaspora in the US have participated in elections, and I think like when you see like people up to today saying that did not happen, it means that there was no proper
communication.
There was no proper communication.
They didn't know it was happening. They were never registered.
Yes.
And Ali, by the way, you are what was it called? You are election.
No, I was an agent.
You are an agent, correct?
Yeah, I was an agent.
And there was a registration that was done at the Kenyan embassy.
Yes.
Not only the Kenyan embassy in DC, it was done in
LA, and in New York. Yeah.
And there was a total of only 700 people who were registered.
There were very few people who got registered in the US. I think it was it 700 and something?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what.
And
we
then
discussed,
only 300 voted, or 200 and some change.
It was very disappointing. The 200 and something was in the DC. I think in the DC polling station.
Yeah.
But it was very disappointing numbers. There is like a reason behind it in that the announcement was made very last minute. But I was very disappointed. I expected a bit more, especially the people
to be
who
honest,
are local.
my brother, let's be honest. Yes, for the local folks,
yes,
that's on y'all,
right?
That's on you guys.
New York,
but the rest of
LA,
us who have to come all the way to DC or go from the Midwest, we have kids, we have all of this.
That's
so
right there.
it's not about we have that right.
Yeah.
We have that right. But it's accessibility. That's the question we need to talk about.
That's a poll tax, in my opinion. Making people have to pay for a hotel and a flight. That's a poll tax.